The fact is that there's a very negative image of Islam and Muslims, and a very distorted one, I think, that starts already in the early Middle Ages, in the early medieval period in Europe. And that has continued and continues to be advanced by some people even today. On the other hand, starting in the 18th century, especially the 19th century, there were Western scholars who began to look more closely at the realities of the Islamic textual tradition, including the Quran, and at the way Muslims have acted over many centuries, and they certainly have provided an alternative view. The history of the world in the 18th and 19th century is basically one of Western countries taking over the rest of the world. So, you know, it's not like we haven't shown aggression on our side, yet we don't think of ourselves as being purely violent and aggressive. So when we look at the Islamic tradition over many centuries, certainly there are episodes of aggression against all kinds of people, other Muslims as well. But there's also, for the most part, Muslims are not violent people. They're people who want to make a living and have a better life for their children and so on. It's an exaggeration or some kind of stereotype. There's obviously a lot more to Islam as a religion of, what, 1 billion people or a couple of billion people than violence. It's not to say that there haven't been episodes of violence. There have been for every cultural tradition. But to focus on that alone is obviously a serious misrepresentation of what Islam is and has been. I think the Quran says, when it talks about killing people or fighting them, it talks about fighting unbelievers. It doesn't talk about fighting, or specifically killing Christians or Jews. So it's kind of a general thing. And then there's always the question with the Quran, at least as far as I'm concerned, of in what context were these particular verses first circulated? Are they intended to be of general import, or are they something that is a response to a very particular situation where you're in battle and you have to kill the enemy? Maybe it wasn't really intended to be applicable except for those very limited contexts. So, but these are things that, you know, interpreters, we can look at the Quran and interpret it one way or the other way. Much of a reading comes from us, not from the text, I think.